Now read a second time. I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Greens today to speak against this bill. I acknowledge the terrible loss experienced by Brodie Donegan and her family, and I understand that she is seeking this as part of a genuine attempt to remedy a perceived problem in the law. I have given careful consideration to the bill and to the existing law. I've read the articles by Brodie Donegan, as well as the submissions of the Bar Association, the AMA, other women's groups, and many of my constituents. This is a very difficult issue, which has been born of profound grief and loss. Nevertheless, I simply cannot support this bill. I'd like to acknowledge all of those who have been involved in the campaign to raise awareness and understanding of the worrying implications of this bill, and I also recognise many of those people here in the gallery today. I'd like to highlight the following organisations who tirelessly stand up for the reproductive rights of women which are threatened by this bill: Rape and Domestic Violence Services Australia, the Women's Health New South Wales, Family Planning New South Wales, the F Collective, the Women's Electoral Lobby, the Community Legal Centres New South Wales, Women's Legal Services New South Wales, the National Foundation of Australian Women, the F Collective, as well as many other students and those who have been active around this issue. I note and am very concerned by the issues raised by the AMA, the Bar Association, the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Obstetricians and Gynaecologists, all of which oppose this bill. I will be addressing the amendments in the consideration in detail, but one thing that is important to note is that in this House there are just 19 women members and 74 men. In the other place there are 13 women members and 29 men. We need to urgently address the gender imbalance in our governments and in our society more broadly. The underrepresentation of women shames us all every day we allow it to persist, but especially so on days like this. The fact that so many men are deciding law about a woman's body, in my view, is simply not right. So today I'm standing up on behalf of the hundreds of women who have written to me outlining their concerns about how this bill may affect their reproductive rights. Many of the particulars of the bill have already been raised by other members, but we Greens have a number of key concerns, and I'll focus on 3 of these issues. Firstly, and we've heard this discussion before, that this bill is simply not necessary. The current extended definition of grievous bodily harm under the Crimes Act 1900 is necessary and does not require amendment. The Crimes Act was amended as recently as 2005 to address the destruction of a person by a person of the fetus of a pregnant woman against their wishes. Section 4A of the Crimes Act 1900 says that the destruction of a fetus, other than in the course of medical procedure, constitutes grievous bodily harm against the woman, whether or not the woman suffers any other harm, and the maximum penalty is 25 years, Mr Deputy Speaker. The 2010 review of laws surrounding criminal incidents involving the death of an unborn child by the Honourable Michael Campbell QC recommended against creating a distinct offence, concluding, quote, "Current offences do allow the justice system to respond appropriately. This matter should be closed and does not require further amendment." The bill would create a charge of grievous bodily harm for a fetus, a measure which has been identified by both medical and legal professions as highly problematic. And I quote the AMA, quote, "The view of the AMA New South Wales is that the current extended definition of grievous bodily harm under the Crimes Act 1900 is sufficient and should not be amended. Any further extension of legislation to create a charge of grievous bodily harm for a child in legislation, to create a charge of grievous bodily harm for a child in utero, in our view, would have unintended consequences and flow-on effects in other areas of the medicine and indeed the law. Further, the AMA New South Wales objects to any legislative amendment or creation of a criminal offence which recognises an unborn child as a legal entity independent of its mother. Our immediate concern is that such recognition would create unnecessary complications across several of our member specialties, such as genetics and obstetrics. Mr Deputy Speaker, this highlights clearly the views of the medical profession and the problems associated with this legislation. The second point, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that for the first time in New South Wales, this bill would provide personhood status to the fetus. Unprecedented. This fetal legal personhood is a concept used to restrict or even ban safe abortions. We know this from the experience in other jurisdictions like the United States. And while this bill particular may not be, there are claims that this bill in particular may not have a direct impact on women's right to access abortions, it will set a precedent in the same way that members are using Birth, Deaths and Marriages Act in order to justify this step to personhood. this will be seen as a stepping stone to this fetal legal personhood concept, which we know is such a problem. We've seen similar provisions legislated in other jurisdictions which have resulted in mothers being prosecuted where it is determined that they have acted contrary to the interest of the, quote, living person, end quote, they are carrying. If this bill passes the New South Wales Parliament, there is no question it will establish a case, an issue that will be used in legal arguments in future on the attacks of lawfulness of abortion in New South Wales. I doubt I need to remind anyone here today that abortion is still unlawful in New South Wales. There is no doubt that this bill will have flow-on effects to other areas of medicine and indeed the law. And we've seen the legal debates already here today. The legal debate already here today between those who support, for example, the Law Society or the Bar Association, and those who don't. Barristers arguing about whether or not this bill is significant, arguing about the content of this bill, and arguing about the implications of this bill. It's clear that this matter will be judged in the courts with barristers arguing on putting forward different views, and that is exactly why these matters should not be brought to this House in this way. You know, it's clear from the women's organisations and the women's groups that have contacted me that they've voiced clear and well-considered concerns about this bill. How it will impact on the reproductive rights of women, including those affected by domestic violence. One of the groups is a women's refuge in my electorate, which supports women and children who have experienced domestic and family violence. And they wrote to me and they said, quote, "Whilst we are intimately aware of and have grave concerns for the damage caused to mothers and their fetuses through acts of domestic and family violence, we do not think the bill is necessary or appropriate. Indeed, our service works with women to empower them and to exercise their rights, including their reproductive rights. We have serious concerns that the proposed bill, if passed, will impinge upon women's reproductive rights," end quote. The fight for women's rights is not just the responsibility of women, Mr Deputy Speaker. I congratulate many of the women and men who have campaigned for women's reproductive rights for many years, and I commit myself to continuing that fight alongside you. We Greens will continue to work towards repealing all laws which restrict the right of women to choose abortion and which restrict access to services. This is part of moving towards a more equal and just society. We know that promoting women's rights helps create a respectful, just and prosperous community for us all. It's clear that this bill, despite attempts to amend it, in my view, which do not resolve the problems, should not proceed. For those of us who are defenders of women's rights, we believe, in fact, that the existing laws are not good enough and that women's reproductive rights are not secure. We've seen the fact that this bill and the issues raised in this bill are highly contested in the legal profession, highly contested in the medical profession, and that should send a strong message to all members in this House that this is a dangerous path that we are seeking to take. And I want just to take the last few moments of my speech to speak directly to those members here and those who are watching this discussion. It's clear that with the two lots of changes that have been made to this proposed legislation, there has not been adequate opportunity for full review, for an open process, as has been raised by other members, which should have been taken. A draft bill, a discussion paper, the opportunity for people to interact. We're seeing now amendments at the last minute, amendments which are seeking to resolve clear and obvious problems in the original legislation. If, I say to you as other members, you have a shred of doubt about the implications of this bill, if you've seen the letters from contesting barristers fighting out the definition and description of this bill and the impact of this bill, you should vote against it. If you're not sure about any aspect of what this bill does, if you have any concern that's been raised in your mind, you should vote against it. If you don't think that this bill will make a difference, have a look at the contesting arguments that we've seen, and we've even seen members attacking the Bar Association of New South Wales. It is a heavily contested legal area, and this will bring unintended consequences. If you respect the views of the AMA, vote against this bill. If you support the Bar Association of New South Wales, vote against this bill. If you respect the Law Society, vote against this bill. If you respect the views of the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Obstetricians and Gynaecologists, vote against it. If you support a woman's right, vote against it. If you know what has been fought and won in the battle for women's rights over generations and you don't want to be part of a push to undermine those rights, vote against it. I oppose this bill.
Order.